I believed family always came first, until my identical twin Ethan slept with my girlfriend Natalie. What hurt worse than their betrayal was how quickly my entire family sided with him, cutting me off completely. 8 years of silence passed before they suddenly wanted me back in their lives, claiming they missed me so much. But their true motive for reconnecting was even more disgusting than the original betrayal. Before I share this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to find out how I handled this family that only wanted me when they needed something. Growing up in Portland with Ethan was special in ways only identical twins understand. We shared everything from birthday cakes to chickenpox, finishing each other's sentences before we could properly form them. Despite looking exactly alike, our personalities diverged early. I was the careful planner, the one who thought things through, while Ethan lived spontaneously, drawing people to him with his charm and easy laughter. Our parents called us their perfect balance, two sides of the same coin. Between us existed an unspoken rule that superseded everything else in our young lives: loyalty to each other above all. When neighborhood kids tried pitting us against each other, we stood united. When teachers compared our grades, we defended each other fiercely. This bond only strengthened when our parents divorced when we were 14. The separation tore through our family like a hurricane, leaving emotional debris everywhere. During those turbulent months, Ethan and I retreated to our shared bedroom, creating a sanctuary against the chaos. Late at night, listening to our mother cry through the thin walls, we made a solemn pact. I remember Ethan gripping my shoulder in the darkness, his voice unusually serious. "We protect each other, Chase. No matter what happens, it is you and me against the world." I agreed without hesitation. How could I know those words would haunt me years later? The divorce reshaped our family. Our father moved across town, our mother worked longer hours, and suddenly adult responsibilities fell onto teenage shoulders. We adapted together, figuring out laundry, cooking simple meals, and maintaining some semblance of normalcy. This crucible of shared hardship forged what I believed was an unbreakable connection between us. When we graduated high school, we both chose Portland State University. It seemed natural to continue our journey together, though we finally agreed to separate dorm rooms. This small step toward independence felt monumental at the time. College introduced us to broader social circles, where we could exist as individuals rather than the twins. The space proved good for us both. Junior year changed everything. That January, I walked into my American literature class and saw her sitting near the window, morning light catching her dark hair. Natalie Williams. Something about her quiet confidence drew me immediately. Unlike the women Ethan typically pursued, Natalie possessed depth and substance beneath her beauty. When she spoke in class, people listened. Working up the courage to talk to her took 2 weeks. When I finally approached her after class to discuss our assignment, conversation flowed effortlessly. We shared a love for obscure indie films and hiking the Columbia River Gorge trails. Coffee after class became dinner that weekend, which turned into marathon conversations that stretched until sunrise. Within a month, we were inseparable. The next 2 years with Natalie were the happiest of my life. She balanced me perfectly, challenging my careful planning with just enough spontaneity to push me out of my comfort zone. We explored hidden waterfalls, took impulsive road trips to Seattle, and spent countless evenings debating books and films. I loved how her mind worked, how she saw the world differently than anyone I had ever known. After graduation, we moved in together while I started my business degree, and she pursued teaching credentials. We discussed marriage casually at first, then with increasing seriousness. I started saving for a ring, researching designs I thought she might like. Our future seemed golden and certain. That Thanksgiving, I brought Natalie home to meet my extended family. She had met my parents and Ethan before, but this marked her official introduction to everyone else. The dinner went perfectly. My grandmother adored her immediately. My aunts pulled her aside to share family stories, and even my reserved grandfather engaged her in lengthy conversation. Watching her charm, my family filled me with pride and certainty that she belonged with us. Only one interaction nagged at me afterward. Ethan had watched Natalie throughout dinner with unusual intensity. When they talked in the kitchen later, they stood slightly too close, their laughter a bit too intimate. I dismissed the uneasiness as irrational jealousy. After all, Ethan was my twin. He would never cross that line. How wrong I was. 3 months later, I returned early from a business conference in Seattle, eager to surprise Natalie. We had been apart for only 4 days, but I missed her terribly. Driving through evening rain, I pictured her delight when I walked through the door unexpectedly. Perhaps we would order takeout, open a bottle of wine, and spend the night reconnecting. Pulling onto our street, confusion replaced anticipation when I spotted a familiar car parked outside our apartment building. The blue Honda Civic belonged unmistakably to Ethan. Strange that he would visit Natalie while I was away, but not entirely unreasonable. Perhaps he needed to borrow something or had brought over mail delivered to our parents' house. The apartment door was unlocked, another oddity that raised my internal alarms. Walking in quietly, I heard muffled voices coming from our bedroom. My body understood what was happening before my mind could process it. A physical chill ran through me, feet suddenly heavy as I approached the partially open door. The scene inside shattered my reality so completely that I still struggled to describe it coherently. My brother and my girlfriend entangled in our bed, so absorbed in each other they did not notice me standing there. Time fragmented into surreal slow motion. I remember noticing absurd details. The blue shirt I had given Ethan last Christmas crumpled on my bedroom floor. The framed photo of Natalie and me face down on the nightstand, as if they could not bear our smiling faces watching them. Ethan saw me first. His eyes widened with shock, then something worse, guilt, without surprise. This was not their first time together. Natalie gasped, clutching sheets to herself, her face cycling through shock, shame, and something that looked disturbingly like irritation at the interruption. "Chase, wait," she stammered. "This is not what it looks like." The absurdity of that statement might have been laughable in another context. What else could it possibly be? Ethan recovered faster, already reaching for his jeans. "Brother, let me explain. It just happened. We never meant to hurt you." Rage erupted through me with volcanic force. I lunged toward him, grabbing him by the throat and shoving him against the wall. Despite being identical in size and strength, my fury gave me momentary advantage. We had never truly fought before, not like this. Trading childhood punches paled compared to the violence surging through me now. Natalie screamed, begging us to stop as we crashed into furniture, knocking over lamps and bookshelves. The physical fight blurred into a chaotic tangle of limbs and pain until we broke apart, both bleeding and gasping. Ethan stood across the room, wiping blood from his lip, his eyes a mix of defiance and shame. "Get out," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Both of you." "Chase, please," Natalie cried, partially dressed now. "We need to talk about this. 3 years together, and that is all you have to say, that we need to talk about you sleeping with my brother." In our bed, each question came out like a separate gunshot. Ethan tried approaching me, hands raised placatingly. "Chase, you need to calm down. This is not entirely what you think. We have feelings for each other." Those words broke something fundamental inside me. Not a momentary lapse or drunken mistake, but feelings. They had developed feelings while betraying me repeatedly. "Get out, before I do something I cannot take back," I whispered. Something in my expression must have frightened them, because they gathered their things quickly and left. When the door closed behind them, I collapsed to the floor, my body racked with sobs that felt torn from the deepest part of me. Everything I believed about loyalty, love, and family lay shattered around me like the broken furniture. My phone began ringing less than an hour after they left. My mother then, my father then, Ethan himself. I ignored them all, spending the night packing essentials and booking a hotel. I could not remain in that apartment with its tainted memories for another night. The next morning my mother called again, her voice unusually stern. "We are having a family meeting at 2 o'clock. Everyone will be there. We need to resolve this situation before it tears the family apart." I laughed bitterly. The situation already tore me apart. What family meeting could possibly fix this? "Just be there," she insisted. "Your father and I agree this needs addressing immediately." Against my better judgment, I arrived at my parents' suburban home that afternoon, expecting at minimum some semblance of support. The scene I encountered instead remains one of the most painful memories of my life. The entire extended family had gathered in the living room. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins sat in a rough circle with Ethan positioned prominently beside our mother on the sofa. Their expressions ranged from concern to what looked disturbingly like annoyance, not toward Ethan but directed at me. "Chase," my mother began once I had taken the only empty chair. "We all understand you are upset, but this family meeting is about healing and moving forward." My grandfather nodded, sagely. "Brothers fight. It happens, but blood is thicker than water." "Fight," I echoed incredulously. This was not a fight over a borrowed sweater. "He slept with Natalie. Repeatedly. In my bed." Aunt Susan waved her hand dismissively. "You and Ethan have shared everything your whole lives. These things get complicated with twins." I stared at her speechless. My uncle patted my shoulder. "Son, you both loved the same woman. It happens. But you cannot let a woman come between brothers." The surreal conversation continued, with each family member minimizing the betrayal, suggesting I needed to forgive Ethan because we were twins, because we were brothers, because family comes first. No one addressed the magnitude of what he had done. "Chase," my mother said finally, "Natalie was never right for you anyway. Perhaps this is for the best." The statement hit me like physical violence. My own mother dismissing 3 years of what I thought was love, justifying my brother sleeping with my girlfriend as some kind of favor to me. Only my father showed a glimmer of understanding, his eyes meeting mine with genuine sympathy. But even he remained silent, unwilling to challenge the family consensus. "You cannot seriously expect me to forgive this," I said, looking around the room. "Not now, maybe not ever." My mother straightened her back, her expression hardening. "This family has always stuck together through everything. If you cannot find it in your heart to forgive your brother, then perhaps you should not come back until you can." The ultimatum hung in the air like poisonous gas. My grandmother gasped softly, but no one contradicted my mother. Ethan sat beside her, his expression a carefully constructed mask of remorse that did not reach his eyes. "It just happened, Chase," he said quietly. "We tried fighting it. I am sorry you got hurt, but you cannot help who you fall for." Something inside me broke permanently in that moment. The family I thought would always have my back had instead plunged a knife into it. "If that is how everyone feels," I said, standing slowly, "then I guess this is goodbye." I walked out, steps echoing in the sudden silence. Part of me believed someone would follow, someone would see the injustice and stand with me. The door closed behind me with finality. No one came. That evening, alone in my hotel room, I made the decision that would reshape my future. I applied for a job transfer to our Seattle office, withdrew my savings, and began researching apartments in a city where no one knew me as half of a matched set. Within 2 weeks I had moved, leaving behind everything familiar, including the family that had chosen my brother over me. The first holidays alone were brutal. Thanksgiving in a Chinese restaurant. Christmas morning in an empty apartment, with no presents or calls. My phone remained silent, except for work communications. No one reached out except my father, who called twice, clearly uncomfortable, never directly addressing what happened. The family had closed ranks around Ethan. Seattle initially felt like exile, but gradually transformed into sanctuary. My new position at the marketing firm introduced me to Jackson, a senior partner who recognized something in me worth mentoring. His guidance provided professional structure, while I rebuilt my personal life from scratch. Everyone gets knocked down, Jackson told me over late-night project sessions. Success is determined by who gets back up and how they carry themselves afterward. I threw myself into work, advancing quickly through dedicated effort and natural talent. Weekends found me exploring my new city, deliberately building routines that bore no resemblance to my previous life. I joined a kickboxing gym to channel my lingering anger and a hiking group that gradually introduced me to people who knew nothing about twins or betrayals. 6 months after moving, I started therapy, finally acknowledging I could not process the multiple betrayals alone. Dr. Winters helped me understand that my identical twin choosing my girlfriend represented the ultimate identity theft. He had not just taken someone I loved, he had attacked the very foundation of who I was separate from him. Your family asking you to simply forgive and forget is asking you to erase yourself, she explained. Their inability to acknowledge the unique pain of this betrayal speaks to their inability to see you as an individual deserving of boundaries and respect. These insights did not immediately heal me, but they provided framework for understanding what had happened. I was not crazy or overly sensitive for cutting contact. My boundaries were not just reasonable. They were necessary for survival. During those 8 years of separation, my father called sporadically conversations strained and superficial. He never directly mentioned Ethan or asked me to reconcile, but his discomfort permeated every exchange. My grandmother sent birthday and Christmas cards, each containing some variation of "life is too short to hold grudges" or "family is all that matters in the end." I stopped opening them after the 3rd year. Wedding invitations and family reunion announcements arrived, periodically addressed in my mother handwriting. I declined them all, sending brief, polite responses that revealed nothing about my life. Through mutual friends, I learned Ethan and Natalie dated for only 3 months after my departure. Their great love, worth destroying me for, had apparently burned out quickly once the thrill of betrayal faded. 5 Christmases ago, I nearly broke my resolution to stay away. A particularly difficult project had ended, leaving me exhausted and unusually vulnerable to nostalgia. I went so far as to book a flight to Portland before canceling it the next morning. Something told me returning would mean surrendering the new identity I had painstakingly built. Instead, I legally changed my last name, severing the final formal tie to my family of origin. The simple act of signing those papers provided unexpected liberation. For the first time, my identity existed completely separate from Ethan. We no longer shared even a name. Professional success came gradually, then suddenly. After 4 years working under Jackson, I had saved enough to launch my own marketing consultancy. The first 2 years brought brutal hours and financial uncertainty. I lived on ramen and determination, pouring every cent back into the business. Many nights I questioned my decision, tempted to return to the security of employment. The breakthrough came unexpectedly through a former client who recommended me to a major tech startup. Their campaign exceeded all expectations, generating industry attention and bringing a flood of new business. Within 18 months, I expanded from my one-person operation to a team of 12 talented professionals working from real offices instead of my apartment. Buying my first house at 30 represented a personal milestone. The modernist structure overlooking Lake Washington had nothing in common with the traditional homes my family preferred. Every decision, from location to furniture, reflected choices made without compromise or consideration of anyone's opinions but my own. For someone who grew up as half of a unit, this independence felt revolutionary. Sophie entered my life during this period of professional ascendance. We met at a charity auction where her environmental nonprofit and my company both sponsored tables. Unlike Natalie's intellectual intensity, Sophie possessed quiet wisdom and unflinching honesty. She listened to my family history without judgment, giving me space to reveal the story at my own pace. "Everyone has scars," she told me after I finally shared everything. "Yours are just more symmetrical than most." Her gentle humor and patient understanding gradually dissolved the barriers I had constructed around my heart. Learning to trust again did not happen overnight, but Sophie never rushed the process. She understood that healing happens in its own time. Life settled into a satisfying rhythm. My business thrived, my relationship with Sophie deepened, and the pain of family betrayal faded to a dull ache I acknowledged without letting it control me. I had built something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. The occasional dreams of family gatherings where no one could tell Ethan and me apart grew less frequent. Then last month everything changed. My phone suddenly exploded with notifications, text messages from cousins who had not contacted me in 8 years, voicemails from aunts and uncles expressing how much they missed me, social media friend requests from family members who had previously blocked me. Something had clearly happened. Most surprising was the voicemail from my mother, her voice cracking with emotion. "Chase, please call me. We need to talk. I miss you so much, son." My sister Alicia, 4 years younger than Ethan and me, sent a lengthy email explaining cryptically that things have changed and the family needs to heal. She pleaded for me to respond, saying she had always regretted not standing up for me years ago. The strangest communication came via postal mail, a handwritten letter from my grandfather who rarely wrote anything longer than a signature on a check. His shaky handwriting filled 3 pages with reminiscences about my childhood and vague references to family legacy and the importance of coming home. Initial confusion gave way to deep suspicion. 8 years of silence broken by this sudden chorus of reconciliation seemed too dramatic to be sincere. Something had changed, certainly, but I doubted it was their perspective on what had happened. After careful consideration, I agreed to meet Alicia at a coffee shop, halfway between Seattle and Portland. Neutral ground seemed essential for this conversation. She arrived looking simultaneously older and more like our mother than I remembered, though her enthusiastic hug felt genuinely warm. "You look amazing, Chase," she said, studying me. "Success suits you." "Thanks," I replied, keeping my tone measured. "Now why is everyone suddenly acting like the last 8 years never happened?" Alicia sighed, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "Dad is sick, Chase. Stage 4. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors give him 6 months, maybe less." The news hit harder than expected. Despite our strained relationship, I had never imagined a world without my father in it somewhere. "I am sorry to hear that," I said honestly. "But that does not explain the full court press from everyone else." She had the grace to look embarrassed. "There is more. The family business has been struggling since Dad got sick. Ethan took over operations about 3 years ago, but let me guess, he ran it into the ground. Not completely," she hedged, "but close. The company lost several major clients. There were some questionable investments. The bank is threatening to call in loans that would bankrupt the business and possibly force Mom to sell the house." The picture became clearer. So everyone suddenly remembered, I exist because they need my business expertise to save the family company. Not because they regret how they treated me. Alicia looked down. "I would have reached out regardless of the business situation. I missed you. But yes, the timing of everyone else contacting you is not coincidental." She met my eyes directly. "They would not have reached out otherwise. I think you deserve that honesty at least." I appreciated her frankness even as it confirmed my suspicions. "Thank you for telling me the truth. Will you at least consider talking to Mom and Ethan? Dad asks about you constantly now." Against my better judgment, I agreed to one meeting at my parents' house. If nothing else, I wanted to see my father before it was too late. The following Sunday found me driving the familiar route to my childhood home, emotions churning with every mile. Sophie had offered to accompany me, but this journey felt like one I needed to make alone. The house looked smaller than I remembered, the blue paint, faded garden less meticulously maintained. My mother opened the door before I could knock her face, a complex mixture of hope and apprehension. She had aged considerably, hair now completely gray, new lines etched around her eyes and mouth. She moved to embrace me, then hesitated, reading my body language correctly. "Chase," she said instead, stepping back. "Thank you for coming. Everyone is in the living room." Everyone meant my father, dramatically thinner and seated in what appeared to be a new recliner, my sister Alicia and Ethan standing uncomfortably near the fireplace. My father struggled to his feet when he saw me, emotion clear on his gaunt face. "Son," he said, simply opening his arms. Despite everything, I could not reject this gesture. I stepped forward, embracing him carefully, shocked at the fragility of his once solid frame. When we separated, his eyes were wet. My mother immediately launched into hostess mode, offering drinks and snacks, as if this were any normal family gathering. The surreal quality intensified when she began chatting about neighborhood gossip and distant relatives, studiously avoiding any acknowledgement of the 8-year chasm between us. Ethan finally broke the awkward dance. "You look good, Chase." I studied my twin, noting the subtle differences time had created. He had gained weight, his face slightly puffy, hair thinning where mine remained full. The physical divergence felt symbolically appropriate. "What exactly am I doing here?" I asked, addressing the room at large, besides the awkward pretense that nothing happened. My mother glanced nervously at my father. "We wanted to reconnect as a family. We have missed you terribly. For 8 years, because no one bothered to call, write, or attempt any real reconciliation until now." Ethan stepped forward. "Look, I know what I did was wrong. I have regretted it ever since. But we are brothers, twins. That bond should mean something." "It meant something to me," I replied evenly. "That is why your betrayal cut so deep." "The business is in trouble," my father interjected weakly. "Ethan has tried his best, but we need your expertise. You always had the head for business." At least he stated the true purpose without pretense. My mother shot him an irritated look before turning to me with a manufactured smile. "Of course, we want you back in our lives regardless. The business is just one aspect. We are family." "Family," I repeated slowly. "The same family that gave me an ultimatum to forgive the unforgivable or leave. The same family that watched me walk out without a single person standing up for me." "You were always so stubborn." My mother countered her pleasant facade, cracking slightly. "We expected you to cool down and come back after a few weeks, not disappear completely." Ethan nodded. "We made mistakes, but so did you. Running away, changing your name, cutting everyone off. That was extreme." The audacity of their perspectives struck me with such force I nearly laughed. In their minds I had overreacted to finding my twin brother and girlfriend in bed together. I was the one who had behaved unreasonably by enforcing boundaries. "Let me understand this clearly," I said, my voice calm despite the turmoil inside. "You want me to help save the family business which Ethan mismanaged, and in exchange I get the privilege of rejoining a family that chose him over me when he betrayed me in the worst possible way." My father shifted uncomfortably. "We handled everything badly. I should have stood up for you. That will haunt me forever." At least his remorse seemed genuine. My mother, however, appeared more concerned with practical matters. "The past cannot be changed. We need to focus on solutions now. Your business experience could save everything your grandfather built. Surely that matters to you." "It does," I acknowledged, "which is why I will help Dad professionally. I will review the books, create a recovery plan, and provide business consulting. But I will not pretend the last 8 years never happened. I will not move back to Portland or rejoin Sunday dinners as if everything is normal." Ethan's face darkened. "So you will swoop in, show everyone how much smarter you are, then disappear again. Typical Chase, always needing to prove your superiority." "Ethan," my father warned weakly. I maintained my composure with effort. "My offer is to help professionally while maintaining personal boundaries. Take it or leave it." "Of course we accept your help," my mother said quickly, shooting a warning glance at Ethan. "But surely over time you will see that coming back fully is the right choice." We are your family. I have built my own family, I replied. Friends who respect my boundaries. A partner who would never betray me. Colleagues who value my work. Those relationships have earned my trust. You have not. You cannot just replace your real family, my mother insisted. I did not replace you. You replaced me when you chose to support Ethan unconditionally at my expense. I simply built something new from what was left. Ethan stepped toward me, frustration evident. So you will hold this over us forever. One mistake 8 years ago defines everything. It was not one mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices. You chose to pursue Natalie. The family chose to minimize and excuse what you did. Everyone chose to let me walk away alone. Those choices had consequences. I stood suddenly exhausted by the emotional weight of the conversation. I will come back next weekend to look at the business financials. Dad, I will do everything possible to save Grandpa company, but I am doing it for him and for you, not to earn back a place in a family that did not value me enough to stand up for me when it mattered. My father nodded understanding in his tired eyes. My mother started to protest, but he raised a hand to silence her. Thank you, son, he said simply. That is more than we deserve. Driving back to Seattle that evening, I felt lighter than expected. Setting boundaries had empowered me in ways simply cutting contact never had. I was helping on my terms without surrendering the self-respect I had built over 8 difficult years. Over the following weeks, I divided my time between my Seattle business and salvaging my family company in Portland. The situation proved worse than initially described, with significant debt and several major contracts on the verge of cancellation. I established a clear separation of duties, working directly with my father whenever his health permitted and communicating with Ethan only when absolutely necessary for business purposes. Sophie supported me through the complicated process, providing both emotional stability and occasionally accompanying me on the Portland trips. Her presence helped maintain my perspective when family pressures threatened to pull me back into old patterns. You are doing a kind thing, she reminded me one night after a particularly tense day at the family office. But kindness does not require self-sacrifice. Your boundaries matter. Gradually, the business stabilized. I negotiated extensions with creditors, revised operating procedures, and helped secure several new clients through my industry connections. My father rallied temporarily, finding renewed energy in working alongside me. Our professional collaboration slowly rebuilt fragments of our personal relationship. During a rare moment alone in his home office, he addressed what had happened directly for the first time. I failed you, he said quietly, organizing papers that no longer required his attention but gave his hands something to do. When you needed me to stand up for you, I stayed silent. No amount of terminal illness changes that fact. Why did you not say something? I asked, the question that had haunted me for years finally voiced. He sighed heavily. Your mother and I were in a difficult place after Ethan's previous business failure. She was determined to protect him from another perceived rejection. I told myself the twins would work it out eventually, that stepping back was the right approach. His hands stilled. I was a coward. His honesty provided a measure of closure I had not expected. Thank you for telling me the truth. You built something impressive in Seattle, he continued. Your strength amazes me. I would like to think you got that from me, but we both know better. 2 months into the business recovery process, my father's health declined rapidly. Our business meetings moved to his bedroom, then ceased entirely as he entered hospice care. During his final week, I spent every day at his bedside, sometimes discussing business matters he could no longer influence, but still found comforting sometimes sitting in silence as he drifted in and out of consciousness. The morning before he passed, he gripped my hand with surprising strength. Promise me something, he whispered. Anything, I replied. Do not let bitterness consume the rest of your life. Forgiveness is for you, not them. I nodded, understanding. He was not asking me to rejoin the family fold, but to release the weight I had carried for 8 years. I am working on it, I promised honestly. He died peacefully that night, Sophie and I on one side of his bed, my mother and Ethan on the other. The shared grief created a temporary truce, a moment of connection without expectations. The funeral was small, family only. I stood slightly apart during the service, accepting condolences from relatives who had ignored my existence for nearly a decade. Their sudden warmth felt performative rather than genuine, but I acknowledged each with polite detachment. Afterward, Ethan approached me in the church parking lot, his expression uncharacteristically vulnerable. "What happens now?" he asked. With us, the business has a solid recovery plan in place," I replied. "Follow it, and things should continue improving. The team knows to contact me if serious issues arise." "And us?" he pressed. "Are we ever going to be brothers again?" I studied his face, so similar to mine, yet inhabited by someone who had made choices I never would. "We will always be brothers by birth. But brotherhood in any meaningful sense requires trust. I do not know if that can be rebuilt. We are twins, Chase. Two halves of the same whole. That has to count for something." That was always the problem, I realized aloud. I am not half of anything. Neither are you. We are separate people who happen to share a womb. Once I understood that I could finally become whole on my own. He looked stricken, but I continued gently. "I forgive you, Ethan. Not because you deserve it, but because carrying that anger serves no purpose anymore. I wish you well. I hope you find whatever you are looking for, but I cannot go back to who I was before." The drive back to Seattle felt like crossing a threshold. The business was stable, my father at peace, and I had finally said the words that released me from the past. Sophie waited at home, our future bright with possibilities, neither defined nor limited by my family history. Life continues to unfold on my terms now. Sophie and I married last spring in a small ceremony, surrounded by the chosen family we built together. My mother and sister attended. Ethan did not. Some relationships cannot be fully restored, and acknowledging that truth has brought its own peace. The most valuable lesson from this long journey was understanding that sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. True family consists of people who stand with you, when standing up for you costs them something. Blood creates relatives. Loyalty creates family. Have you ever had to create strong boundaries with family members who hurt you? What helped you heal from family betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming painful family situations and building a life on your own terms. Thank you for listening, and remember, you always have the right to protect your peace, even from those who share your DNA.